Hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Julie Brake. My business is Positive Nutrition in Marietta, Georgia, and this is my Eat Well and Prosper video on hydration. So for athletes, but for also everyone, getting enough fluid is important. We hear this a lot, right? Drink your water, drink your water. Water is not the only place we get fluids, but it is a main source. Hydration is important. Water helps the body run itself even down to the cellular level. And there are a lot of other things that water does for our body. We need to make sure we're getting enough fluid. Being adequately hydrated will delay fatigue during physical activity and also protect your health and wellness. And dehydration will affect your abilities to kind of deal with the activity that your body is doing. So we want to be starting off in a well-hydrated state as well as hydrating during and after physical activities as well. We need to keep in mind that anytime the temperature is higher, whether it's because we're outside or we're just in a warm environment, that will increase our body's fluid needs. And also, of course, when we sweat, we will lose fluid and we will also lose electrolytes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about electrolytes as well. And that's your sodium and your chloride and your potassium that you would lose in your sweat, especially if you are a person who tends to sweat a lot or a lot more than it seems like other people are sweating that are doing similar activities. So really, again, we want to make sure we're getting enough fluid. We hear a lot about 8 cups of water a day or 64 fluid ounces. Sometimes that gets pretty close. Sometimes some people need a lot more. Sometimes you read, 1 gallon a day of water. That can be a little bit much. So we don't have to be forcing fluids. A general rule of thumb to follow is to get 8 to 16 ounces, which is 1 to 2 cups technically. 16 ounces is a standard water bottle size. If you have a refillable water bottle, you might want to see how many ounces it is. It might be 24 ounces or 32 ounces or sometimes more than that. So you might have to do some math to figure out how many water bottles you need to have in a day. Typically, though, if you have 8 to 16 ounces at a time, every time you eat something or after you eat something, then you should be getting enough in the day. Hopefully you're having 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks a day, or sometimes you might be eating more often than that. So every time you eat, if you drink something, then you should be getting enough fluid for what your body is going to be using. Now, if you do have, let's say, a dance class, since I'm doing this for some dancers, or soccer practice, or any other type of sports activity, even if it's just I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours, your body is going to need some more fluid. So you need to make sure, again, that we're hydrating well throughout the day. Drink 8 to 16 ounces of water before you start. Try to drink some throughout. And then for every hour of activity, you probably need another 8 to 16 ounces of fluid. The bigger you are, the more fluid you need in general. So if we're talking about a smaller child, they won't quite need as much. But if we're talking about a bigger adult or a professional athlete, they're going to need more. Again, with sweating, if you are a person that sweats a lot, you will need more fluid and you will probably need some electrolytes. So standard sports drinks like Gatorade, Powerade, anything like that, can give you those electrolytes. You can also use the little packets that you kind of put in your bottle of water or in your refillable water bottle to get some electrolytes in. And just 1 to 2 servings in general for amateur athletes is fine. If you're a professional athlete, you probably need a lot more. And professional athletes have access to kind of personalize their sports drinks, and they can get the concentrations that they want and they need for their activity. But for your typical athlete, if you're talking a high school athlete, you probably maybe need 16 ounces of electrolyte drink per practice or per day. And if you are concerned about that, I would meet with a sports dietitian and kind of get more personalized advice on that. But generally, the sports drinks you can do after your activity, and it's not something you need to do during. But if you're having a hard time maybe feeling like you're hungry during your activity and you don't have time to eat food, then sometimes using a regular Gatorade or Powerade or sports drink can help with getting you some kind of calories as well as your fluid needs and your electrolyte needs. And I'm going to look over my notes and make sure. Okay. And then the last thing is, how do you know if you're well hydrated? Sometimes if you're feeling run down and fatigued, that can be a sign that you're dehydrated, but there can be a lot of other things that can cause fatigue, like if you're not getting enough sleep or something like that. So the way to really check your hydration is your urination. So when you go to the bathroom, if you are having to pee 3 or 4 times a day, and it's a good volume, then, and it's not too dark in color, then you're probably decently well hydrated. Most people will have to go to the bathroom 5-6 times a day, even more. You shouldn't have to go to the bathroom urgently every 30 minutes. That can be a sign that there's something going on as far as a urinary tract infection or something like that. And when you go, it shouldn't be difficult to go. If you start to have like a small amount where you're not going a lot, or your urine is very darkly colored or even a deep yellow color, then that could mean that you're dehydrated and not getting enough water. When we talk about fluid needs too, I said earlier, it doesn't have to be just water. So milk and juice are, 97% water still. So you can still count those as fluids as well as nutrition for you. And so keep in mind that those would count in your fluid needs. We hear a lot about caffeinated fluids not counting towards your fluids, and they really do unless you have a lot of caffeinated fluids, which I don't recommend for children or adults, but particularly for children and teens, caffeine can be very unhealthy for the body. So it would be better to choose things that don't have caffeine in them, and you can almost get any drink that's caffeinated. You can get it in a decaffeinated version. So having that would be better for you as a child or a teenager. Adults, it's better too. So 1 to 2 servings of caffeine a day is okay. If you're someone who has more than that, you may want to drink some extra water because caffeine does pull fluid away from the cells and into the urine. So we would want to add some extra fluid to account for that. Okay, so I hope that answers all of your questions about hydration. I also hope it gives you some good pointers to have something to drink every time that you eat, and also kind of monitor what's happening with your urine to help you tell whether or not you're well hydrated. Thanks very much for listening.